This is Anjanette Potter, also known as Adam's Rib, and you are looking at Monday Night Quarterback. So, as you can see, I'm back to my regular time, which is midnight. My Columbus had their last day of school this past Thursday, so I no longer am doing grandma duty Monday through Wednesday, so I can stay up a little bit later. So tonight I'm going without notes tonight. I still am talking about spiritual abuse, and I'm still talking about pastors and church leaders that use um, the the separation of church and state to excuse abuse, to make you think. Let me put it that way: to make you think that abuse is protected. It is not. If something is a crime, first of all, let me say this. We no longer live in the days where a man's wife and children are considered to be his property. So, therefore, women and children are protected from abuse. Not only that, but so let me go ahead and go in here. I was going to try to go noteless, but so let me go into. I basically want to read something to you because there are people who are trying to get away with. Okay. Does the separation. So I'm unable to find the exact clause, but I'm going to say that the separation of church and state does not protect behavior that is considered to be a crime. Okay? And you can base that on cases like Warren Jeffs and different other cult leaders that have committed behavior that is considered to be a crime and got arrested and are now doing time in jail. So let's say, like Charles Manson, you believe it's God's will for you to go and murder somebody. Well, Charles Manson, even though he was not the one who actually committed the crimes against Sharon Tate and her friends and the LaBianca murders, he wound up doing time because of a thing called conspiracy. So one of the things that I learned in my criminal justice class when I was doing my undergrad is that conspiracy to commit a crime is also a crime. So you want to be careful how much you know about somebody's criminal behavior, because I remember reading this book by Donald Goines, and I keep wanting to say White Man's Burden, but White Man's Burden is a movie. I will get the title, but basically a character in the book had been talking to a couple other fellows, and they were basically talking about how to rob this store, how to rob this establishment. And so when the guys got out, they used the plans that they were given and they robbed the place. Well, once they got arrested, they rolled over on him and basically said that they used his plan to go and rob the place. Because they used a plan, because he was in on their plan, and they named his name, he got additional time. He might have even got life. Now, you might say, well, that's a work of fiction or this, that, and the other. But it's a work of fiction, but I also know from a class that I took that conspiracy is a real thing that you can be charged with. And so if you're in a church and a pastor is committing crimes, he's committing crimes against people in his flock, you want to be careful how much you know, because some of these pastors are a bit snaky, and many people have the idea of liking to take people down with them. So you either want to be careful what you know, or you want to get the heck out of Dodge before any of their plans get carried out really bad. There seems to be a bit of a human trafficking epidemic, and quite a few churches have been named. Whenever I think about stuff like that, I always think about that scene in New Jack City where Nino Brown decides to start, if he got to go down, everybody else got to go down. And many people think like that. So you want to be careful. You want to be careful, being part of a pastor's inner circle. Because, and especially when you start to know that they're in different stuff. Another thing I want to discuss is religious freedom. Just because someone believes that it is okay to do certain type of behavior, like one of my podcasts I want to do this week, I want to talk about criminalization, because I recently heard a thing where a woman was advocating for domestic violence to be decriminalized. I personally don't, I would have to look at it more, but I personally don't think that it should be decriminalized. And I say that because it took till the 90s for marital rape to be considered a crime. Okay, for the longest time, a man could rape his wife and not have to worry about being prosecuted. Even though I believe in rehabilitation, I do not believe that domestic violence should be decriminalized. And one of the things a woman said in this piece that I was looking at, it was a documentary. She said, well, you have this record for nothing. And I said, he doesn't have a record for nothing. He has a record because he chose to put his hands on his wife, which he should not have done. So putting your hand on your wife is a crime. Putting your hands on anybody is a crime. So putting your hands on anyone is a crime. So, even though I'm down with rehabilitation, I still, believe that should remain a crime. I saw something earlier. So if you remember any of my podcasts, you remember a podcast that I did where I talked about Jezebel teachings. And I did a blog post based on one of my papers that I did for school, and I talked about then about the whole Jezebel thing. So the Jezebel is a very horrible stereotype of black women. And it got its start, its roots are in slavery. And it is really a way to hypersexualize black women and objectify us sexually. Now, it really was a way of justifying white slave masters at that time raping, the rape and violation of black women, slave women at that time. And I was looking at YouTube and I saw where these white guys were talking about, well, why they don't date black women. Oh, I know, I was going to look up. And this one girl responded and she talked about how, black women could not even be anywhere near, and still somebody would try to invoke us. And I thought the terminology was pretty cool because, what does it mean to invoke? Okay. So to invoke, invoking is a verb. So a transitive verb, to petition for help or support, to appeal to or cite as an authority. Number two, the number two meaning, to call forth by incantation or conjure, to make an earnest request for, to put in effect or operation, to bring about. So I want to focus on meaning number two, to call forth by incantation or conjure, or make an earnest request for. So that's 2 and 3. I thought it was interesting because, she had a point. Black women can be nowhere in the room, and somehow, we wind up the topic of a conversation, and our presence, it seems to be brought up. And I'm like, I don't think we're checking for you all that hard. And it's always, and I looked at this old film. I highly recommend that you watch, if you have, first of all, if you have a Roku device or you have a smart TV and you have the ability to get YouTube on there, I first of all highly recommend YouTube. And now, as a channel, I recommend, well, really no matter what color you are, but if you're Black, you owe it to yourself to subscribe to the Real Black One channel. Real Black is almost like a history lesson on film, because you look at it and you get to see a lot of old school movies that we have starred in. And so he has this one where it talks about a black family moving into a mostly a white neighborhood. And some of the stuff that was being said, part of the movie, they talked about the stuff that's being said. Well, why do they want to go where they're not white? And I've been hearing that statement a lot. And it's like, we're not trying to go the role. I don't think a lot of people understand that the fight for equal rights for us never really involved integration. Now, I've heard, integration has hurt us, this, that, and the other. Whether or not you feel like integration has hurt us, what they call desegregation, which is anti-segregation, I don't believe the role was ever to integrate. And it's funny to me because a lot of white people stay worrying about Black men trying to marry their daughters, or us trying to marry them. And it's like, how about we feel like we have the right, if we are income eligible, to move into an area that's nice, that's clean, that isn't tore up, or maybe if you kept the entire city clean where you are, we would not feel the need to have to move. Maybe we just want a nice house that we can afford. Maybe we just want a place to live, a decent place to live in a decent neighborhood. Maybe we just want to be able to have a house, period, instead of only living in an apartment. There are maybe we want our kids to go to a school where, a decent school that's clean, that, maybe we just want the same things for our family that you want for yours. So it's not always, maybe we want to be able to eat at a lunch counter and not have to, worry about not being able to order food. Maybe we want to be able, if you saw Hidden Colors, you'll get this reference. Maybe we want to be able to go to a bathroom that's right here and not have to run clear across campus to go to the bathroom. Maybe we want to be able to drink from, a water fountain all of the things that maybe we want to be able to go to school and study whatever we want to study for whatever career we feel called to. So if you're a Malcolm X, if you're a fan of Autobiography of Malcolm X, you got that last reference. Because one of the things, he wanted to be a lawyer and was basically discouraged from it because the teacher told him that wasn't a realistic thing for him to do, being that he was colored. Now, we've come a long way, but it always interests me that some white person will say, well, why do you all get your own schools? We have historically black college, we have HBCUs because we were not able to go into the other colleges and study what we wanted. We weren't admitted. Okay, not only were we not admitted, but you also didn't want women to come up in there. So when I hear some of this stuff, one of the things that I have is that white supremacy has done such a good job of convincing us as black people that we don't deserve anything that it is we want. I remember seeing the movie Rosewood, and they were discussing the Don Cheadle character, the white guys who were, declaring war on the town of Rosewood. And so he made the remark, he said, this guy has a piano. I don't even have a piano. And one of the other white guys said, you don't even play the piano. But somewhere in his bigoted mind, he just felt that if he couldn't have a piano, then this black guy has no business having a piano. That's how stupid racism can make you. And so you have to be careful. I was looking at the news just before I came on here, and they're talking about Donald Trump having a strong lead in the Republican primary. I am not a Republican, and I will not be voting Republican. I will be voting for Joe Biden, like I did when he and Mr. Harris first ran. I'm like, I cannot understand how anybody will want that hot mess back. Except that you maybe missed the jokes, but I'm like, I am not understanding how somebody would want to go a second round with him as president, and especially now that he's getting charged with all these crimes. It's just a mess. It's just a real mess. And I really don't understand how anybody would want that. But they're Republican, because I think there are Republicans that are wanting to run and trying to challenge his ability to run again. I don't know. What I do know is I'm voting Biden, because I'm not trying to do Donald Trump again. And as a black person, I would highly recommend that you do not vote for Donald Trump. I do believe that some of the stuff that is going on here, I've said it before and I'll say it again, is an attempt to turn back the clock. I just saw a woman on, I just saw a clip of a white woman saying how she wanted to bring back slavery. And this was on TikTok. And how slavery was good for black people. I can't make this up. Because we had free room and board. And some of, I couldn't, so misinformed. Nothing we got on that plantation was free. I promise you. And we had no rights. They showed a clip of Louis Farrakhan saying how, integration hurt us. And he had some pretty decent points. But when I hear people say that, I'm like, you have to understand what also was going on before desegregation. And that is, we had no rights. Okay. We were property. We had no rights. Anytime we went over into a town to ourselves and started to really, really build up and do really good, we had to put up with racist white people resenting our success and then deciding to burn the town down and tear the town down, all in the name of protecting white womanhood, because they would make up a rape charge or do whatever. Even though the majority of women being raped during that time were black, and the majority of rapists were white. But people, I have a meme. Excuse me so much. Ooh, Lord forgive me. That I like to post, and it is by Zora Neale Hurston. And one of the things she says is, if you are silent about your pain, they will kill you and act as though you liked it. Now think about the number of men who violate women, who are word women, I'm trying to be good here, and then act like it was consensual. Pretty much every guy who sexually violates a woman tries to act like it was consensual, even though they know themselves that it wasn't. And so basically that's kind of what she's talking about, where people like that, like she said, they will kill you and then put their own spin on it and act as though you enjoyed the experience of being murdered. And so I like to put that up there, and I will say, 2 black women, no more shut mouth grace. Shut mouth grace isn't working for us. Shut mouth grace pretty much keeps us being victimized by the same behavior. At some point, you have to stand up against injustice, even if it makes your way a little uncomfortable. And to be perfectly honest with you, it isn't making you uncomfortable, it is making the oppressor uncomfortable. People like to talk about taking you out your comfort zone, but I truly believe that we need to take racism and sexism out of its comfort zone. We need to make people so uncomfortable about disrespecting our boundaries that they'll at least have a brain fart before they do it. I do believe that the Donald Trump presidency did not do our country any good at all. It was horrible. And he did as horrible a job as I thought he would do. Don't be a black person that looks for a plantation to climb on. Enjoy your freedom. Enjoy the freedom that you have now. And work as hard as you can to preserve that freedom. We're not slaves anymore. We're the descendants of slaves, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. Nothing that happened to us at that time was any of our fault. But work your butt off to preserve the freedoms that we have. Work your butt off to keep anybody from trying to turn the clock back on us. Work your butt off to overcome classism and this huge gulf between the have and have not. Work to protect the rights of our children and people that can't speak up for themselves. Work your butt off. I don't care about people call hashtag. I don't care about hashtags, hashtag activism. If that hashtag, if your podcast, if whatever you have to do to speak out against injustice, then do so. I have been speaking out, and one of the reasons why I'm talking about churches that use the separation of church and state is because I left a church that I believe is involved in human trafficking. And so I'm speaking out. I don't want anybody like that getting comfortable. There seems to be a move to try to make sex work legal. I won't be doing it even if it's legal. But, people can say, well, and let me say this, at the age of 56, I'll be 57 this July. I don't mind telling my age. I don't believe it's unladylike to tell your age. I think you should be proud of your age. I've lived 6 years past a half a century. I have seen a lot of history-making moments happen. I have seen a lot of stuff go down. I look at some of these, true crime and different other stuff, and it's made me a bit of a history buff because I like digging that stuff up. History happens every day. Every day somebody is doing something that is history making. And like I said before, we need to work our butts off. We need to do everything we can to preserve the freedom that we have. We need to work to preserve the freedoms, the ground that we've gained, so that no one tries to snatch it back from us. I'm saying that as a Black person. I'm also saying that I'm saying it as a Black person. I'm not white, never gonna be white, and I'm okay with it. I'm also saying that as a woman. We have rights, we have protections. Even if you don't believe in abortion or anything like that, the fact is we don't have, if somebody violates us and we find out that we're pregnant, we don't have to carry the rapist's seed if we don't want to. We have a choice in the matter. Even if you believe that the baby deserves to live, at least you have the choice to say that that child deserves to live. You don't have to deal with the resentment of having to carry to term a baby that you did not, that was made from sex that you didn't even agree to have. Now, you have some people who will carry it further and go, but we want the ability to have an abortion no matter what type of sex it was. If we don't want to carry a kid, we shouldn't have to carry a kid. And, that's your opinion, and that's fine. But you also have to look at the bigger picture, because what you're going through now is not just about abortion rights. The men, you have to really look out for these manosphere people and for these men's rights people, because men's rights people are it's almost like they're fussing because they don't have the freedom to oppress women anymore. They don't have the right to control us anymore. They can't control how much money we make. They resent the control that they no longer have over us. So, they're, passing laws. It's just something else. And so, like I said, we have to, we have to make our voices heard. No more shut mouth grace, because shut mouth grace isn't helping us. We really, truly, like I said, even if you're a right to life, you still have to think about the fact that you enjoy many rights that feminism has fought to give you. Something as basic as the right to be able to vote came through a women's movement, came through first wave feminism. Somebody marched, somebody did whatever they could to grant you that right. As a black person, we've had to be given the right to vote twice. Because the first time we got it, they passed all kinds of laws to try to make sure to shimmy sham us and do everything they could to keep us from being able to exercise that right. It had to turn around and be granted again during the 60s with Dr. King. That's wild. That's very, very wild. We have to be careful. You have to be careful, even in church. You have to be careful not to align yourself up with anybody that's going to take you backward and make you lose everything that we've gained. So this Friday night, I will be doing Eclectic Music Geek. We will be celebrating the birth of Prince. I also will be doing, Rest in Peace, a phenomenal songwriter has transitioned this week. And so, like I said, in Born Again Christianity, we call it a transition because, we don't believe that, we don't believe, that death is the end. We believe that death is the transition. Into the but I don't remember her name. But she wrote one of my favorite songs by Dolly Parton called "Here You Come Again," as well as a few other songs. So we will be celebrating her life. And we will also be continuing in our year-long celebration of the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So I will be talking about a hip hop genre. I'm not decided yet. By the time Wednesday rolls around, I will be going live, and I will be giving you more specifics. Plus, by then, I'll have my playlist made out for what songs I'm going to be playing this Friday night. So, you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Work hard. Be productive. Be productive spiritually. In this series on spiritual abuse, I'm going to talk a little bit more about also what I kind of want to talk about this Wednesday and also Friday during the broadcast. I want to talk about prioritizing your spiritual walk and why it is so important for, if you're a Christian, you want Christ to come first. Prioritizing your spiritual walk is good for your mental health. It really is. And I will explain why. So so these next, I said that the last time, but I'm serious. These next few teachings that I do, I'm going to talk about prioritizing your spiritual walk. It is a prayer life, knowing the Word of God. These are things that are so important to your growth as a born again Christian, or whatever you're practicing. We're primarily Christian over here because I'm a born again Christian. So you want to be able to prioritize your walk with God, because your relationship with your Creator is so important. It's how we get things done. It's how we navigate our life. It's how we decide, between right and wrong and what path we should be taking. So I'm going to go ahead and get off here. You guys have a good one. I will see you Wednesday night. Be at peace.